Afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. This is gonna be videos on Cuomo. All right, so we're gonna do some fact checking, or we're just gonna do quick descriptions of what has been going on about Cuomo. So Cuomo has been in the news as of late, pertaining to his response to COVID, about possible mishandling of COVID data, and along with sexual harassment. So we're gonna go through the COVID data shit first. According to my understanding of the COVID shit, the allegations were that he was sending patients back who had COVID to reinfect people, and he also underreported the numbers. Now, his response is basically based off of the request that the federal government had made at the time. The priority was to have accurate information for the federal government versus the state. I've seen counters for this. Apparently other states have also had to submit federal information, and that they didn't have problems relative to him. So they're not sure why it would be a problem for him to present that information, considering how big New York is, along with other places. But I'm gonna give him the benefit. That needs to be investigated. If there was a problem with underreporting of cases just by accidentally not coding them, that's great. That is something that to this day, every single state is still underreporting their numbers. So with regards to me trying to demonize Cuomo because he's a Democrat and he's a person who's also not giving accurate descriptions of the amount of COVID cases when they're Republicans doing this all day and they don't give a fuck about anything, I'm not gonna do that bad faith shit at all. Second thing, regarding the cases that he sent the patients back. According to the clinical staff, the reason why, so even if the patients were sent back, the patients, they said, according to the clinical staff, the medical professionals who said they do not regret the decision that Cuomo made, the patients were sent back and they already had COVID. The patients in the nursing facilities already had COVID. So Cuomo did not send them back for them to catch COVID. There were patients that had COVID and patients that already had COVID at the nursing home. So when the patients who had COVID were sent back, these patients already had COVID. If people want to talk about the lack of ability to distance people after people are positive, knowing that they can still transmit COVID after 3 days or so or whatever, blame your health organizations that allowed for clinical staff to come back if they didn't have severe symptoms after claiming some symptoms of COVID. Blame the people who had clinical staff who weren't able to get COVID tests, but celebrities were able to get COVID tests first when they're working on the front lines, but they can't get a test because they don't have severe symptoms. If people want to talk about the fact that there were problems with determining where to put people or symptoms, or if people were making actions that would contribute to spreading more, blame Republicans as well. The reality that we can get from Cuomo's actions is that he saved more people than any other group of people could have. If you look at DeSantis, who's given white people COVID vaccines before poor people, ain't nobody saying nothing about that. If we can look at niggas like Ted Cruz and all these motherfuckers who were being niggas who didn't even agree that COVID was real and that it's a hoax, talk to those people. What about those people who were part of Congress and part of their state and local government who were getting vaccines before residents were, who were part of health staff, when the people who got vaccines before them, who were politicians, were the ones who were spreading propaganda that contributed to more COVID cases, increasing the workload and the stress of the staff who they are not getting the COVID vaccines first. Let's talk about that. But I know ain't nobody gonna want to talk about it because this is an opportunity to demonize someone who made a very good effort and in practice yielded good results, considering room for error, considering the information that we had available at the time. If it was up to me, Cuomo should have been harder. He should have been fining niggas more. He should have been doing all that. But that's one thing. We're gone with that. That's a clear. So if it needs to be The reason for COVID deaths being possibly undercounted, one reason is that if people died in COVID, there's a difference, so the patients wouldn't get double counted. Many patients, so they wouldn't get double counted. If you died in the hospital, in the nursing home, then that was a nursing home death. If you died if you had COVID and then you were transported to the hospital, they counted your death as a hospital death. So in order to prevent the numbers from getting double counted, the cases, that is why there is going to be a discrepancy in numbers. That doesn't account for all the cases, but it counts for many. So once there's an investigation, we'll be able to see what else happened. But I'm not going to bad faith Cuomo, and I understand that Cuomo has still been voted one of the people you can trust during COVID. He was voted people who you trust more than Trump, who's the president in the United States, who contributed to so much anti-intellectualism about COVID, as opposed to, and he even threatened to not give Cuomo more ventilators because they were rude, to which he ended up getting Pence to also make that statement because they're rude, so they don't appreciate what I'm doing for them. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna throw a little hissy fit and delay the ventilators that you may get. That's going to increase the probability of more people dying, but ain't nobody gonna talk about that. But you know, as usual. So we're over that with COVID. Second is sexual harassment. So I'm not one of these niggas who just believe women. We're not gonna go down that. If you're a woman or you're any of these people who are fake woke feminists on that shit, and you think that I'm about to go down the route of trusting women and it's the truth, that ain't happening. That's not happening, so leave now. So let's go into it. Allegations that Cuomo had engaged in some sexual misconduct with minors. So these allegations are coming from 2 staffers. I haven't read the details of the story, but I'll say it goes with this. I know in the past that we've gotten that there have been allegations towards Congress and towards members, towards politicians about, in like a Me Too situation, where there may have been quid pro quos or based off the power dynamic that existed, about men using that to an advantage to try and, you know, gain, have sex with younger women or people they work with, because a woman may not be aware of the consequences of her not doing it and the level of unknown and all that. I know that in the past, when it comes to politicians, I know that Trump, I know that there have been allegations against many, and I know when it comes to Democrats, there haven't really been any that stick. The last couple ones that I've been aware of. Let's go through some examples. Al Franken. Al Franken was an individual who they said was grabbing the buttocks of women and making inappropriate comments. Al Franken was forced to step down. That is because the left does hold their people accountable when they want to when it's talking about people doing shit that are not good. In some cases, when it comes to and this is also why we infight so much and why we can almost never get shit done, it does yield some positive results. When it came to Franken, what ended up happening, Al Franken got kicked, he stepped down, only to find out that the bitch was lying. The bitch could not corroborate, could not keep her story straight after, like months after. And Republicans and Democrats came out and said they regretted having such a vehemently disagreeing with Al Franken, forcing him to resign, because we found out the bitch wasn't even telling the truth. So many people would regret calling for him to resign when there really isn't evidence. So is there proof of bitches lying and niggas going to jail or niggas losing positions of power because of whatever shit? Yes, there is. Now, the same is happening with Cuomo. Or let's go through Biden. Biden, allegedly there was it wasn't Christine Blasey Ford, which that nigga didn't even get in trouble with his shit, the Supreme Court. So we're not even gonna go into that. But who was the other bitch? The woman who and the Christine Blasey Ford is not even close to this situation I'm about to explain. So the other situation that I'm talking about is the woman who came out prior to Biden. So the bitch lied about there being sexual harassment versus sexual assault versus some comments, and basically what it came down to is we found out the bitch was lying because the bitch didn't even graduate from college. She talking about she had all this experience, and pretty much that was a wash. That went through the media and disappeared because we found out it was bullshit. She disappeared. Now she's a problem. If there is some sort of misconduct, then it should be investigated and it'll be true. We have to call for an investigation, and it should be done, which is what Cuomo called. And what he did is he apologized for statements that may have been perceived as insensitive, similar to Al Franken, similar to other people in the past. If this is what they made, then we need to have some precision with regards to what actions were taken. And if they was just flirting, which is not professional considering his situation, the power dynamic, along as opposed to niggas grabbing ass or grabbing by the pussy or all this shit. So do I believe these women right off the bat? No, I don't. We need to do an investigation. The last time they tried this shit on Democrats, they failed. So if you're a leftist person and you do not believe that there should be an investigation that is honest, then you shouldn't really be having this discussion anyway, because we're just not going to believe bitches, because women, bitches, they be lying. So we're going to do that. My advice I'm going to end off on. This is an example of what can happen if you're in this type of dynamic. When you're a boss and there's someone who you're interested in or something like that, just don't flirt with them. Is it possible that you can have a relationship with something even though it's against the rules of your workplace conflict of interest? Yes, it is. I believe that it's possible, but I also believe that there are so many fish in the sea that you don't have to do it. Why? Because the worst case scenario that can happen out of you being in a relationship with your boss or anything like that, some type of relationship where you flirt, either woman or man, worst case scenario is that person can use it against you and you lose your position. The pussy, the dick, the flirting is not ever going to be worth it. I'm sure you're going to be able to find more and better. So anyone in that type of dynamic, you shouldn't be doing it in the first place, because worst case scenario, that shit can fuck you up like it is doing right now. We call for an investigation, all that, and let's see how it goes. Comment, like, subscribe. GG.